Hi LinkedIn, it's Alex here with another how-to video, and going to be a bit of a long one today, but I thought I'd focus on your LinkedIn profile because that is the anchor point for everything on LinkedIn. It's the doorway into who you are and your personality, and it's typically where a number of people fall down as a starting point. Gerd Leonhard, who I'm a great fan of, he says anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. And then he goes on to refer to human-only traits, that basically which makes us human: creativity, ethics, insight, your personality. And you are unique, which is a good thing. And people buy you because of your experience, your expertise. Therefore, what we need to be considering is that more and more of our conversations are now starting to happen and engage online. But we need to ensure that whenever you are met for the first time online, we are seeing you, the individual, not just another salesperson, lawyer, accountant, marketeer, whatever it might be. We need to bring to life your personality. And the way to think about this is, some of our clients, this is hard, it's a difficult people to do, is if I went to any of your clients and asked them to describe to me why do they work with you, why do they buy you, instruct you on whatever it might be, versus the competition who on paper do exactly the same thing. That's the way to consider. So what we need to think about is, how do we use the real estate that LinkedIn provides? This is the template, so work within the template that is given, but don't template it, if that makes sense. So we need some imagery up here. I use a website called Unsplash or Pixabay. You could have your own branded imagery up here, the organization that you work for. What is interesting is that you own your profile. So actually the organization can't make you put the branding up here. And yeah, I get there's argument as to why that is good. But then if you have everybody with the same branding across LinkedIn, you all look the same, and you're not all the same. So consider imaging up here. Then a good corporate profile photo. This is me speaking on stage. Be professional, use the one you have in corporate. Wear the types of clothes that you'd wear in that first meeting. I'm seeing a bizarre trend now of people having their partners in their photographs. So if you go to a business meeting with your partner, then okay, fine. But if not, then why are they in your photo? The next thing we need then to consider is your headline. This is never actually meant to be your job title. It pulls through automatically. I refer to this as your digital handshake. So what is it that you actually do? Because especially if you're in the sales industry, your buyers don't want to talk to you. We don't want to talk to salespeople. We don't want to talk to people who reject themselves as salespeople. If you're a lawyer or an accountant or anything to that effect, again, you're not just another lawyer or just another accountant. You're a human being. So what is it that you actually do? I play around with this every couple of months just to have a bit of fun. So at the moment, I've got digital soothsayer. I then play on this and we see how. So your summary, and this is a huge amount of wasted real estate by people. This is, you'll notice here, actually, I've recently changed it from summary to about. So it's actually about. So about you, what you do, why do people buy you, what is your personality? This is where you can add some flavor to it. If you run marathons, if you climb mountains, if you sit on the board of governors, if you do charity work, anything interesting, insightful that brings out your personality. I want to meet you, the individual. I don't want just some cut and paste effort here, which everybody else has got, because that's not going to cut it. Now, I've taken quite an extreme approach with this summary, but I'm building on the soothsayer. For those of you familiar with asterisks, and that's why I've lifted it directly from a summary of the comic book. But then I've continued the narrative in terms of being the soothsayer and challenging people in some respect to to get in touch with me. Then we want to make sure that we're leveraging this. So I've got my podcast, I've got some videos. So you can upload links, you can upload documents, PDFs, and whatever it might be. However, I will caveat that if any of your content here is date specific, you've got to keep on top of this. There's a senior individual at an organization who shall remain nameless. She has a piece in the FT about innovation, and it is written in 2014. And we're in 2019. So the problem with that is we then question, is anything else up to date on this LinkedIn profile? So if any of your content is date specific or not evergreen, then you need to keep on top of this. The summary is hard. It is hard, but it's worth putting some effort and thought into it. Then we need to consider your experience. So this obviously pulls through your job title. And then we need to fill out, this is the what I do. This is how I can bring things to how I can bring to bear, how I can help you. When I was at PwC, Sean Williams, brilliant partner, when we were doing pitch rehearsals, he used to act like a belligerent 5-year-old and just say, so what? So somebody would make a statement and he would go, so what? Because if he's saying, his argument was that if I'm saying, so what, then certainly the client is thinking it. And by saying that we're the biggest, the greatest, and the best, well, so what? How does that help me think any differently about you when everyone else is saying the similar thing? So the more that we have in here in terms of keywords, words that people can be searching for that are relevant to what you do in terms of helping your audience. Certainly if you're a sales industry, I don't want to know that you've been crushing quota and hitting club. I don't care about that. I want to know how you can help me think differently about my business problems. What makes you different to everybody else? What is your the secret sauce? So bring this all to bear. Invite a call to action. Invite a call to action here to connect. Have a further discussion. Make it as easy as possible for these individuals to bring the conversation from online to offline as quickly as possible, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We are trying to start business conversations. So invite them to connect. Bring in your content here. Then the whole way through, just pull through your experience. The more that we put in here, the more that is searchable on the platform. So just fill this out with as much as you are able. Education is key because that helps the system, LinkedIn, understand where your alumni peers may be and where they've now moved on to, and suggest people for you to connect with. Anything that you've done here, add it in. It adds color, it adds flavor. Remember, the more that we put in here, the more searchable, the more content rich it is, and the more searchable we are outside of the platform too. Skills are an interesting one because they're certainly useful for recruiters because that's how they search things. It's certainly how your targeting emails happen. I haven't put much credence on them. However, at least have the skills in here in terms of what you are an expert in. It's better than not having them because, again, it helps from a search perspective. Then, a lot of people fall down on this. Recommendations. I'm not talking about recommendations from your peers or people that you've worked with in the same team, because that basically tells them you're looking for a job. I spent 5 years in recruitment, so I know how the game works. Actually get them from your clients. This is your Amazon 5-star rating. What better than to have a recommendation, up-to-date recommendation from an existing client that backs up everything that you say and do. Minimum 1 every 6 months. That's all it is. 2 a year in terms of just having somebody recommend you in terms of what you do. Courses, again, as I keep saying, anything that you've done, anything you can add in here, which is just going to help enrich the profile, give people conversation points, people to go, oh, you did this, you did that, I've done that, that's interesting, I'm thinking of doing that. Be more than just another corporate bland face on the profiles, and your interests will come through based on how you what you search and follow. There's also another thing to consider is that when you are looking at profiles, so if I just go through to Ross, Matthew, and Jeff have all given me permission to use their profiles within this video, but I just want to show you something. If I look on Ross's profile, we've got people also viewed here. Now, we don't necessarily want this because I don't want people moving off my profile to someone else's profile, possibly the competition, because we get lost. We click through. So we want to make sure that's actually turned off. So the way that we do that is you come here down to your privacy settings. We come down to your settings and privacy, which brings out a new tab, and it's viewers of this profile also viewed. You need to change that to no. This will annoy recruiters because that's how they do their searching. But ultimately, when your market lands on your profile, we want to make sure they stay on your profile. They're not being dragged somewhere else. So certainly act on that. Other things to consider, personalizing your URL just looks a lot neater than if you got a bunch of numbers. So the way that we can do that is just through here. You click on your pencil here. This takes you through to where you can edit your headline image, your photo. You can bring all this through. And through here, this is where you want to make sure you've got your contact details, website, varying things, and so on and so forth. LinkedIn URL. We click on this. This then pulls you through to the page on how you are visible outside of the platform. So you can be in control of everything down here. But then here is where you'd edit your URL. So get rid of the numbers and try and get your name if you can, or as close to it. It just looks neat and looks like you care, in my view. Just a nice little thing to consider. So if we start to look at some other profiles, this is geared towards professional services because that is my market. But just want to walk you through some of the thought process and also the different ways, the different approach that you can have. Because as I said, every single one of you is unique in this. So if you look at Ross, I said they've given me permission to do this. We can see Ross has got some nice EY branding. Looks good. Good corporate headshot. That is Ross in terms of, so when people meet him for the first time, that's up to date. We can see what he's all about. Then we've got the about section. As I said, this is about him. So he tells the story about what gets him out of, why he's passionate about what he does. Nice call to action here. Let's have a conversation. Let's bring this conversation from online into the real world and start a business conversation. In terms of mobile numbers, my advice is to the women out there, don't do this because unfortunately there are some individuals that still need to grow up and you may get unsolicited messages. So if your email's in the public domain or a work email address, that's fine. Or just have let's connect through LinkedIn because at least you can control that. Then we come a bit further through Ross's profile and we see here in terms of what he's doing, in terms of it's slightly shorter than mine. This is what he does. This is what he brings to. This is all searchable. And outside of that, yes, we could probably have some more content in here. Would be my advice. Got some skills in here. It's got some recommendations, slightly out of date. Maybe consider having a look at those. But at least we've got some good, rich content in here, and this starts to tell a story. But more importantly, and this is for another one, we can see lots of activity. Ross is doing lots of stuff on social, which is absolutely great. So that's one way of looking at it. And I like the headline here. EY partner, the right people in the right place doing the right things. If you just had EY partner, I mean, okay, so what? There are loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of partners. So now I understand. Okay, this is interesting. I want to potentially find out more. Then move into the legal sector, and we look at Matthew again. So Matthew's given me permission to do this. Matthew's got some imagery here, not ANO specific, but it's just a nice image. It pulls through to his main area of focus. Again, enabling business to evolve through M&A. It tells a story. He's a corporate partner out of Oberry, but if we just had corporate partner, back to Sean at PwC back in the day, well, so what? What do you actually do? So discussing with Matthew on this, it's like, okay, if I went to a client base, how would they describe what you do and how you do it? This is what we came to come up with. Then again, the about section, which is no longer the summary. It's about in terms of this is talking to his market. This is talking to the people that he does business with, and this is actually Matthew's personality. This is who he is. He's always a very positive individual and happy about life. So that is who he is when you meet him in a face-to-face environment. Then we see from here, from a legal perspective, he's put through all his transactions he's worked on. Now, if you're a lawyer looking at this, of course, you don't put anything that could be construed as legal advice. You don't put anything that could be that you're not allowed to talk about publicly. But again, this needs to be maintained and kept on top of. But all of this is searchable. So this is all good, rich content. And it starts to back up, the expertise in terms of what's what. And too often do I see in the legal sector, this is just blank. You're just wasting opportunity to be found in terms of what you do. Then we come through to Jeff, who's in the commodity space. Again, see a different approach here. Here he is paneling a session on stage. I like this. It brings it to life. Nice, good corporate photo. Different approach to telling the story here. Says what he does, which is great. And from this story, this summary, I really like because he's talked about that he grew up on a farm. This is his entire life, and who better to talk to about the supply chain and commodity space, within this sector when this is where he's lived his entire life. This is what he does, and we've got the story, the experience, the whole way through, which is absolutely awesome because this starts to bring to life the story, skills and endorsements, recommendations. Pretty spot on profile in my view, personalized URL. So just start to think about your profile in a completely different way. I want to meet who you are in terms of the person that is you. As I said, back to that Gerd Leonhardt quote, you know, every single one of you is unique. So let's start creating some unique profiles on LinkedIn, and then we can start to look at how we can engage your network and using content to bring this all to life. Hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, please do connect with me. If you want me to look at your profiles, I'll be more than happy to do so. But until next time, as ever, thank you for taking the time to listen, and good luck.